episode 93 of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. I'm Nikki, and this is a podcast all about knitting, crochet and making all the things here in northwest London. It has been a really long time since I last sat here talking to you. I will talk a little bit more about where I've been and what I've been up to in Knit and Natter, but here is usually where I would give you a link to my Instagram and all that kind of thing, but I haven't really been online recently, as you have probably noticed, but for nostalgia's sake I will link to my Instagram and everything else I mention in this episode in the box just down below. Where possible, I will try and find alternative links to Ravelry, and I will mark everything that I link to very clearly Ravelry or non-Ravelry as well. I will also link to my Ko-fi account. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm never really sure, but it is my Ko-fi account. So if you would like to buy me a cup of coffee, or more realistically, a cup of tea, I would really appreciate that. And talking of appreciation, I want to say a massive thank you. If you are a new viewer, welcome. Thank you for giving the podcast a shot. I really appreciate that. And if you are a returning viewer, an extra special big thank you, because it has been a long time. But here I am, I'm back. Thank you for taking the time to join me again for this episode. Today's tea is not tea at all. I've had a few cups already today and I'm now on the water. I'm really trying to improve my hydration. So this is me reminding you to hydrate. Now, as I said, it's been a while since I've done this, but I think I've covered everything. So let's move on to Whipped Up. It has been a while, as I have said, so there are quite a few things to show you, but not as many as you might think, because I did lose my mojo for a long time there. As I said, I'll go into that in Knit and Natter, so I'm not repeating myself. I won't go into why now. But yes, I lost my mojo for a little while. It came back, but I've been pretty monogamous, which is probably why I have quite a few faux to show you. So what I'm going to try and do is show you in order what I finished. And spoiler alert, most of what I finished is in here. This is my Christmas box of socks. I'm actually filming this on Easter weekend, and it's a beautiful weekend actually, unusually for a long weekend and a bank holiday in England. But we have been really lucky with the weather, and here I am showing off my Christmas box of socks. But hey, there you go. This is how the cookie crumbles. But all of my recent faux have been for my Christmas box of socks. So I'm now going to dive in and find them for you. Now, the first thing I will say is that these are all vanilla socks, and I knit all of my vanilla socks to the recipe that I came up with by following the videos by Meanwhile at the Castle. I will link to those below. I was trying to learn to knit socks for ages, and this fantastic tutorial series just clicked something in my brain and made it work, and now all I can knit is socks. So again, spoiler alert there. So just assume all of these are from my vanilla sock recipe from Meanwhile at the Castle. But first up, we have these, which I think I showed as a whip in the last episode, which was last autumn. So hopefully, you know, these are a brand new surprise pair to everybody watching. So the main body of the sock is West Yorkshire Spinners. This is the Christmas 2021 colourway vintage tinsel, and as you can see, or at least I hope you can see, there is a little bit of sparkle in there. I don't actually know if that sparkle is picking up because it is such a beautiful bright day, so it might kind of be like kind of glaring out the sparkle, but it is there, trust me, it is there. The contrast cuffs, heels and toes, it took me a minute, but the contrast cuffed heel and toe is a Lamington Lass mini. It's a Highland mini, and it is in Beware the Jade Dragon, which I think made a really pretty contrast actually. I'm really happy with these. I took ages to finish them, to be completely honest, and I'm not sure why, because they are gorgeous. They don't super remind me of vintage tinsel. They remind me more of a Quality Street or Roses tin, which I think is probably a very British thing to mention. It's basically every Christmas we get tins of chocolates, and this is what it reminds me of, all the sparkly, gorgeous, different coloured sweeties. So yeah, look, see, we've even got the purple one in there, so Those are the first pair that were off the needles since the last episode. Next up, we have another beautiful finished pair, and this is by Stranded Dye Works in the Christmas 2021 colourway Popcorn Garland. Just like with West Yorkshire Spinners, I always get the Stranded Christmas colourway. I absolutely love what Jude does. Just gorgeous, gorgeous colourways every single time, and look how pretty they are. So I don't know if that's picking up, but it's just a pale sort of pinky red with a lot of greens and reds and a couple of little yellow spots as well, and it came with a mini as well, so that made my life a lot easier. I didn't have to try and match them to a mini. Now around here was where I started speeding up a little bit. This is Stray Cat self-striping sock in the Nutcracker colourway, and it came again with a mini for the contrast heels, toes and cuffs. I keep wanting to call it Stripey Cat, but I've written down Stray Cat, so I'm going to trust past Nikki when she was writing those notes. But this is absolutely gorgeous. This was a sock set gift from my pen pal, Rachel of the Crafty Historian podcast, and I absolutely love this. And this is where my mojo really started to come back. So I finished up the Popcorn Garland socks, and I started work on these, and I hammered these out pretty quickly compared to previous speeds anyway. I think these are absolutely gorgeous. I really love the stripe sequence. I really enjoy particularly this kind of goldy mustard in there. I think they are super, super festive, but I also really like this kind of beigey, sandy contrast, because I probably would have gone with a red. Red is kind of my go-to when it comes to festive socks for contrast. But I actually think this works really nicely, and I think they're very, very pretty. So that is another finished object. Now, you are no doubt getting a little bit tired of socks, but I do have one more pair to show you. So this is my very last, most recent, I should say, pair of finished Christmas socks, and this is in the Poinsettia self-striping by Tiny Human Knits. I used a ball of Ripples Handcraft for the contrast heels, toes and cuffs, and I think that is in ripe rowan berry, but the right information will be on the screen. However, these had a slightly different ending, as you can see. So this was like a mini sock, not sock set because it didn't come with a contrast, but it was like a mini sock skein is the word I was looking for. And what I should have done was weigh out the skein, divide it into two, and do a sock up, a toe up sock. I didn't do that. I tend to work cuff down. I've only ever done toe up once, although I really enjoyed the fit on that, so I should do it more often. That is what I should have done. That is not what I did, and that is why we've ended up with quite an extreme toe on this one, but I actually don't mind that at all. I don't think they look significantly different. They're not going to look any different in shoes when I wear them in the festive season. They're just going to be comfy and cozy. This really doesn't bother me at all, but I just wanted to kind of flag that when you get the kind of smaller sock skein, you probably should, I'm preaching to the choir here, I know, it's probably just me that was a donut and didn't realise, you should probably work toe up just to be on the safe side, because then probably what would have happened is I just would have had a very slightly shorter leg, and I could have continued that up into a longer cuff if I wanted. But yeah, that is my last finished pair of socks. You'll be very, very happy to hear. But I am very happy. That is quite a wodge of knitting for the last few months. Not as much as you would expect, because as I say, I haven't done an episode since about last autumn, so there's not as much as you would expect to see, but I'm quite happy with that. That is a significant dent in my box of socks, and I love all of them. I think they're all really, really lovely. I've never actually held them all like this. This is very satisfying. But that isn't it for faux. I do have one last thing. It's technically a faux. There are a few things I need to do to it, but it is technically a faux. And this is it. Now this is just a basic granny stripe based on the kind of how-to from Attic 24. And I say it's a faux, but as you can see, there are quite a few ends that I haven't woven in. And I pretty much This I actually finished before all the socks. This is made out of all of my advent scraps that I got this Christmas. So for those of you who don't know, or maybe you don't remember, I do an advent swap every year with Katie of Inside Number 23 and Jude of Stranded, and this is what I made out of it. The year before, so Christmas 2020, I made every one of them into a little square, and I crocheted them all together, and I donated the blanket. And I decided to do the same again this year because I really enjoy simple crochet, particularly in December when it's kind of a manic time, but I kind of don't need any more blankets at this point, and there's always somebody in the world who needs a blanket. So I decided this year to do a slightly smaller granny stripe. So this is kind of like a pram blanket, a little baby blanket. It is absolutely gorgeous, so many beautiful colours, but the problem was my mojo was very much grinding to a halt as I was working on this, and the only reason I kept working on it is because it is so deliciously mindless just to be hooking back and forth. But the moment I needed to actually do anything more than that, i.e. weaving the ends, which I'm now looking at it, and I don't even have that many ends to weave in because I mostly crocheted over my ends. So mostly I just need to tuck in a few ends that I didn't maybe catch as thoroughly as I should. I can only see 3, not counting the ones at either end. I've probably only got about 10 ends to weave in, and then I will package this all up and send it off. So I was originally going to donate this to kind of a mums and babies charity, but I think given what's going on in Ukraine at the moment, it's pretty harrowing stuff to watch on the news every evening. And I know that lots of people are leaving Ukraine, so I would like to send this and welcome a family to this country because the government aren't doing a great job of that. So I would like to send this out so that people know that, you know, it's not all of us who feel that way. And hopefully that will make somebody feel a little bit more welcome, a little bit happier. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to do with this one. It's what I did with the last one. I sent the last one to a refugee charity as well, so I will probably send it to the same one. But yeah, I'm very happy with how it's turned out. I think that, I mean, look at it. I love all the kind of different colours. I love how they all blend and clash and just look really, really cheerful. Just look how pretty it is. And this was genuinely a joy to work on. And much as I enjoyed the squares last year, it was really interesting to see how they crocheted up quite differently. I think I'm gonna stick with this. I really do love a stripe. I would do a square one because I think it'd be quite cool to see them kind of radiating out, but then square blankets just aren't as useful or as usable in my opinion. I think this is a really good size, so actually before I send this off I might measure it because I checked and it does fit into a pram quite nicely. So yeah, that will be going off to its new home very soon. Having looked at it, I suddenly have that rush of, there really wasn't much to do on this. So I need to stop being quite so unproductive and lazy and just weave the ends in, and then we will get it off to its new home. But that's it for finished objects. I do have a whip. I only have the one whip because, as I kind of mentioned, did I mention? Probably I mentioned it. I am pretty monogamous at the moment. My brain can't really handle more than one thing at a time, but I am getting through things quite quickly, and I have this kind of mad desire to get through all of my current Christmas yarn, because then I'm kind of done and I can draw a line under that until Christmas comes and the new West Yorkshire Spinners, the new Stranded dye colourway comes out for Christmas 2022. So I'm kind of working on that at the moment. However, some of what I've got left is not necessarily a Christmas yarn or a Christmas sock, but I'm interpreting it that way. So at this point I'm working on a vanilla sock, and this is in a colourway by Fab Funky Fibres called Mr. Smith, which I think when I first showed off the skein I said I didn't understand what that was in reference to, and I still don't. But here is the skein. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, this was another toe up situation, girl. You should have knit this toe up. And I didn't. And this might be another one with a really long toe. Maybe that's just a thing. Maybe that'll just be, I don't know, like some sort of theme in my box of socks. It really doesn't bother me, so it's fine. Although I am looking at it and I am wondering if it is Christmassy. I thought because of the greens and that there's a red, it might be Christmassy. But I'm looking at it and I'm just about to start this dark purple and there's a navy. So I'm gonna see how it knits up, and potentially it will go into normal sock rotation. Or it will go into my Christmas box. I don't know. It's currently on my Ravelry as Christmas sock number 13. I want to say 13, but it may get shunted. We'll see how it feels. We'll see how I feel when it's knit up. But yeah, I kind of thought because of these greens and the red that it would be more Christmassy. I'm not sure. We will see. And if anybody does know what the colour is referencing, please let me know. At first I thought maybe it was a Matrix thing, but I don't think so. I don't know. But it's not just socks that I'm planning to knit, because I do have another project that I haven't started yet, but I am kind of planning to start it very, very soon. It's quite a large project, so I think I do need to have this on the needles alongside a sock, so I've got something small and kind of mindless to work on. But this is going to be the Lois Piano Shawl by Alexandra Tavel, who I think is 2 of 1s. And it is absolutely gorgeous. I will link it down below. And I am knitting it in Yarn Collective, what is this? Rivoli Sport. Now, I saw this in a Lovecrafts email. I absolutely fell in love with it, and I really loved the colours that it was knit in. Unfortunately, they did not have all the colours available to buy. The bright orange that you'll see in the pattern picture was out of stock, so I have replaced that bright orange with this plum. This is gorgeous yarn. So this is a, let me make sure I get this right. It is a merino, alpaca and silk blend. So it's 35% wool, 35% alpaca and 30% mulberry silk. And ugh, you can feel that. You can feel that. So there's this kind of grey blue, this lovely sort of turquoisey teal. As I said, gorgeous plum that is replacing the bright orange. Kind of a sea foamy. And then sort of these peachy, pinky beiges, which is kind of more of the background colour. And essentially it's like a square that's striped with 2 triangles on the end. I'm really gonna hope that you click the link, because I'm not selling it really. My descriptive powers have fled today, but I am very happy. I'm just trying to, there you go, all the labels are out of the way, more or less. There you go. I think that will make a gorgeous scarf. And I've had my Crafts from the Kutch shawl kind of thing that I knit out of, oh, I can't remember. I know it was a cotton blend, and it's a big triangular scarf that I wear kind of like a bandana. I've had that years, and I have got so much good wear out of it, and I'm not getting rid of it, but it would just be nice to have something a little bit new. So I'm hoping to kind of work on this. This will be my kind of big project. And oh God, it's gonna feel so good. It's gonna feel gorgeous. And it will be ready for the winter. So that is what is coming up. When is it coming up? I don't actually know. Just as soon as I can get round to it. I think I'll probably finish up the socks I'm on at the moment, and then have a big wind fest for all of those skeins and get it cast on as soon as possible. But that's it for Whipped Up. There was quite a lot of faux and not a lot of whips. And as I said, probably not as many faux as you would expect considering how long I've been away. But I did, as I said, lose my mojo for quite a long while there. So speaking of lost mojo, why don't we head over to Knit and Natter and talk a little bit about what went on there, what I've been up to and all that stuff. So I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail here, partly because I want to keep this kind of shorter for editing purposes, because I am fresh back to it, so I don't want to have some great gladiator length epic to edit. But essentially what happened was life got busy, as it often does. There was a lot of stuff going on at work, and then I very rarely podcast in December anyway, because it's Christmas, it's a very busy time, and it just becomes a lot of things to do, so I tend to avoid. Unfortunately though, I did catch COVID. I had been really, I was going to say lucky not to catch it, and I was really lucky not to catch it for so long, but I was also super careful. But unfortunately we did, our luck kind of ran out, and we did catch it, and no, not all of us, we tested positive kind of from Boxing Day till about the 28th. I think I went down with it on the 28th eventually. So it did kind of ruin my end of year plans. I had taken some time off as holiday so that I had a good run of time off with Christmas and New Year, and unfortunately I spent pretty much all of it, in fact all of it, sick. I had sprained my ankle quite badly before Christmas, so like end of October, so I'd spent most of November and December resting it and really like walking on it to get it back to full strength, and I was really planning over the Christmas holidays to get a lot of running in, and unfortunately I got COVID instead. It was not great. I'm fully vaccinated. I have asthma, so I'd got all my vaccinations earlier than most people in my age group, so I didn't get it as bad as a lot of people. But I was still quite unwell. I was very, very tired. I had quite a bad headache and a cough. And I slept a lot throughout my holiday, which is a bit of a waste of a holiday, really. But I recovered. I really struggled in January going back to work with long COVID. So I found the brain fog really slowed me down. I found it very, very difficult to kind of keep on top of everything. I had a lot of responsibility at work, so that was exhausting me. So I was pretty much finishing work and sleeping and like having a long nap after work, and then getting up for a bit and then going to bed again. So January was a bit of a struggle, which is why I wasn't back in January. And that struggle is kind of still there. I started running again in March. I felt well enough to start running again in March. I've just got myself back up to about 5 miles. Unfortunately, I'm nowhere near the 10 miles that I was at, and the 5 miles at this point is still, I don't want to say a struggle, because I can get like the first 3 miles comfortably, but the last couple of miles is like a push. So I'm working on kind of getting myself comfortable at 5 miles before we start to edge up. But I definitely do feel it in my kind of lungs, and I definitely feel very, very tired afterwards. So I'm trying to focus on getting that back up as well. Even things like yoga and Pilates, I can't do the level that I did previously. So again, I've kind of brought myself down to beginner levels, and I'm trying to work my way back up again. Having the motivation to do that can be difficult, because it is a little bit disheartening to kind of know that you were at a really good fitness level and you've kind of been pulled back down again. But the only way back up to that is through, you know, climbing through those levels again. So that is what I'm working on at the moment. So yeah, if my energy seems a little bit lower, it's because I am often very, very tired. I'm also enjoying lovely hay fever, as you can probably hear in the kind of graveliness of my voice. So yeah, I've kind of got a double whammy at the moment. So enjoying the hay fever season, and my antihistamines, even when I get the non-drowsy ones, tend to make me feel a little bit. So yeah, sorry if my energy has been a little bit more mellow than it usually is, but that's kind of where I've been, and because of that I don't know how often I will be podcasting. I'm trying to find a balance. I'm trying to get myself back into a good physical level where I was before, kind of thing. So I don't know how often I will do it. I will try to be as regular as I possibly can, because I did miss doing this. But something else that I have been doing over the past few months is looking for my first home, which is very time consuming. So that has been a lot of my weekends and my evenings I've spent kind of on house looking websites, house hunting websites, so Rightmove, Zoopla, etc. And then my weekends I spend going and looking at them. I'm not going to go into that in too much detail now, but that is kind of something that I'm spending a lot of time doing. And as soon as I have some updates on that, I will share them, but we're just kind of not there yet. So yeah, a lot of my time at the moment is spent on looking for my home, work, obviously seeing my friends, but also a lot of that time is spent on trying to get myself up to my old physical fitness, because I do miss it, and I do not like getting to the top of the stairs and hanging on to the banister, gasping for breath. That's not fun. So I am looking to kind of try and improve that as much as possible. But yeah, long COVID is a thing. So, and every day I think, you know, thank God I took the 3 vaccines, because if I hadn't, I probably would have been a lot worse off than I currently am. But yeah, one of the things I have to do today is check out some travel plans, because obviously COVID is still a thing, and it will be affecting some travel plans I've got coming up. So in May there is very unlikely to be kind of any vlogs or podcasts, because I am traveling. I'm going to visit a friend in Austria for the first time since before the pandemic, and a whole bunch of us are going, and we're having a big kind of a big reunion, and we're going to spend the long weekend together for the bank holiday, which I'm very much looking forward to. And then about a week after that I'm going on holiday to South America with another friend. So very much looking forward to those travel plans, and I'm very focused on kind of improving my fitness as much as I can so that I can enjoy them to the max. But that's where I've been unwell, and I've been kind of struggling with the physical and actually mental long COVID, because as I said, you know, the brain fog was very real, and it still is. I still get days when I'm like, which I'm hoping it has got a lot better. So as I said, January was like, it was a real struggle, and it has got a lot better. So I'm just hoping that, you know, with a lot of rest and a lot of work on my part, I can get back to where I was, we hope. So yeah, that's kind of where I've been. That's kind of why it's been a while. I know that I have had a few comments and a few Ravelry messages. I don't really look at Instagram anymore, but I think I have got some DMs there. And the only reason I haven't replied is just because I haven't had the kind of brain space to do so. So thank you so much if you dropped me a message to see how I was, to see what, you know, what I was up to. Thank you, I really, really do appreciate it, and I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. It's just, yeah, as I say, it's just been a lot to kind of compute and get my brain in gear. But that's it, really. That's where I've been. That's all the things I've been knitting and crocheting, and that's what I've been up to. So I'm gonna try and be back soon. I'm gonna try and get a couple, maybe not a couple, maybe one more podcast in before I start my traveling in May. And I will keep you updated. I've kind of been tempted to do some little vlogs instead of full-blown sit-down kind of podcast shenanigans. So if that would be something you'd be interested in, let me know. I might do it anyway, just for funsies, because I have missed you. Hoping this will go out Monday, as it usually did, but it might be a day or so late, or the captioning might be a day or so late. It all depends really on today, because I've got a couple of other things to do. So I hope you have had a lovely Christmas, New Year, spring, Easter, and I hope that you will join me when I come back for another cup of tea or some water, because you should be hydrating and so should I. Have a lovely week or 2 weeks or however long it is until I see you again. But I will see you very soon for another cup of tea. Take care. Bye.